Welcome to the deep dive. We have an absolutely incredible mission today.
Oh, for sure. We really do.
Yeah. We are going to explore this mind-bending sci-fi diptych that has been generating just massive conversations lately. I'm talking about the novel The Ossuary of Living Light and its companion book, The Engines of Appetite.
Right.
If you haven't read them or, if you just want to understand the massive reality-altering ideas packed inside these pages, you are in the exact right place. We're looking at two texts that present radically opposed perspectives on the fundamental nature of reality itself.
Radically opposed.
Totally. One is this story of profound unity, of living light and this awe-inspiring ascent to the center of the cosmos. And the other is a gritty, visceral nightmare of friction, extreme industrialization, and meat.
Just absolute meat.
Yeah. But before we get into the specifics of these two incredible journeys, I want to pose a question to you, the listener. Think about your own mind for a second, the thoughts you're having right now as you listen to my voice. What if your consciousness isn't something produced by the biology of your brain?
Right. Like, what if it's the other way around?
Exactly. What if your physical brain is just a temporary, localized pattern produced by a universal consciousness?
It's the kind of premise that completely reframes how you look at the physical world around you. And it serves as the foundational core connecting both of these books.
Yeah.
The overarching idea the author is playing with here is that the universe is not made of dead, inert matter. It's not just a bunch of empty vacuum and cold rocks.
No.
Instead, the universe is a living ossuary. It's a skeletal substrate of pure foundational consciousness.
It's such a cool concept.
It really is. And today we're going to explore this reality through the journeys of two very different protagonists. One is an optics engineer who ascends to the absolute unconfigured center of the universe.
And the other.
The other is a pit operative who descends into the darkest, most horrific industrial nightmare imaginable. We're looking at two completely different colliding paths to the exact same ultimate truth.
Let's start with the ascent. Let's look at the first half of the diptych, the Ossuary of Living Light. We are introduced to Conversely.
Call. Yes.
He is a brilliant but apparently completely unbearable optics engineer.
He's the worst to work with.
The absolute worst. He's working at this brutalist concrete research facility called the Maritime Institute, which is perched right on the edge of the dark, iron-heavy Vethranian Sea. The atmosphere is incredibly bleak there.
So bleak.
And early in the book, Call goes through 11 straight days of sheer, trembling insomnia.
11 days.
Yeah, but the text makes it clear this isn't madness, right? It's a sudden, overwhelming receptivity. And in this manic, sleepless state, he starts tearing apart the lab's highly expensive equipment. He builds an impossible device he calls the Amberscope.
The Amberscope.
Now, the book spends a lot of time on this device. Why is the Amberscope so different from standard scientific instruments?
Well, because standard scientific tools are designed to passively measure the universe.
Right.
A telescope catches light. A thermometer measures heat. They are observers.
Mm-hmm.
But Call's Amberscope doesn't just look at light. The text specifically says it actively interrogated luminosity.
Actively interrogated. I love that phrasing.
It's so good. It essentially grabbed hold of the light in the room and demanded to know what it fundamentally was. It asked a question, and to Call's shock, the light actually answered.
And the answer it gives him completely shatters his understanding of physics.
Oh, completely.
Looking through the Amberscope, Call literally sees the hidden architecture of the universe. He sees that space isn't empty at all. It is a massive, skeletal infrastructure made of immense, living, light corridors.
The ossuary.
Yes, the ossuary. And these corridors aren't just glowing tubes, they are breathing. They possess intentionality. Call realizes that this living skeleton of light actually wants to be navigated. And more specifically, it requires him to build a very specific kind of ship to do it. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's...
Call has to build a ship to travel through a dimension of pure consciousness. And he has to do it in total secrecy, hiding out in a flooded sea cave beneath the Institute.
Down to the dark.
Right. He gathers materials, primarily a massive slab of meteoric palladium. But he isn't just bolting metal together with a welding torch.
No, it's way stranger than that.
So much stranger. He is visited in this cave by a multi-limbed, amber-colored entity, and this entity seems to be made entirely out of language.
Which is wild.
Wild. It teaches Call how to fold the palladium metal, how to tie a topological knot right into the atomic structure of the material to create a specific harmonic resonance. This ship, which he names the Boreal, Doesn't use thrusters. It doesn't fly.
It translates.
It translates.
That concept of translation is one of the most mechanically fascinating concepts in the book. When Call uses the Voriel to enter what the text calls the blue corridor, he isn't moving from point A to point B in linear space.
Right.
He goes through a process the author calls ontological amnesia.
Ontological amnesia.
Yeah. Think about it this way. Imagine a meticulously built Lego castle. Suddenly, the plastic itself forgets it's supposed to be a castle. It melts down into raw, unshaped plastic potential and then instantly reforms as a fully functional working radio.
That's a great analogy.
That is what Call's atoms are doing. The hydrogen forgets its hydrogen. The carbon forgets its carbon. He becomes a shape made of nothing, and then he transubstantiates.
He reassembles.
Right, his atoms reassemble into the new physical laws in the new medium of the blue corridor. And when he fully arrives in this space, he is surrounded by a breathtaking architecture of organized blue light, which is being actively built by these native vortex beings.
Well, there's a tragic element to this beauty, right?
Yeah, there is.
Because these beings aren't just building a pretty structure. They are building this architecture by sacrificing their own memories. They are literally giving up their own complexity to add a single perfect note to this massive structure.
They are. And this raises an important question. Why would any conscious entity willingly choose to do that? Why sacrifice your rich, complex inner life just to be a structural beam in a quarter of light?
Right. Why do it?
The Blue Elder, who is this massively complex being made of heavily sedimented memory, explains the philosophy to Call. The entire ossuary is simply consciousness exploring its own structure.
Okay.
Most beings that enter these corridors choose the beauty of a specific, highly limited existence. They prefer to be a single, beautiful instrument playing one specific, perfect tune. They sacrifice a bit of their vast potential to build something particular and stable.
Let's pause on that for a second and think about your own life as you're listening to this. How often do you find yourself doing exactly what those vortex beings are doing? Sacrificing a bit of your own messy, chaotic complexity just to fit perfectly into the specific tune of your career or a specific role in your family.
All the time.
It's a deeply relatable concept, just wrapped in high-concept sci-fi physics.
That's a great parallel. We all crave the comfort of a defined role. But the Blue Elder tells Call that he is profoundly different. Call is what the Elder calls a center-bound consciousness.
Oh.
That topological knot he tied into his ship is actually a reflection of his own mind. He acts as the universe's immune system, or perhaps more accurately, its self-reflective mirror. He doesn't get to be a single comfortable instrument. He is driven to see the whole, unconfigured truth of the universe, no matter how terrifying or isolating that might be.
So, driven by this purpose, Call leaves the relative safety of the blue corridor and heads for the absolute unconfigured center. And the sequence where he arrives is just breathtaking literature. He doesn't just park his ship at a destination. The center actively strips him down. He sheds his layers like a spy dropping disguises. First, his name falls away.
Just gone.
It ceases to mean anything. Then his personal history vanishes. Then his entire species, the 4 billion years of messy, chaotic human evolution, just gone. Finally, he even sheds the physical laws of the Terran corridor itself.
The physics just melt away.
Exactly. He is left as nothing but the raw, unconfigured substrate of reality. He becomes white light. He is the silence before the music starts. He contains every possible frequency and every possible corridor within himself, but he is currently expressing none of them.
What's fascinating here is that his core, not that unique topological structure that makes him the universe's self-reflective mirror, does not dissolve in this ocean of white light.
It doesn't.
In the center, surrounded by the overwhelming, frankly unbearable totality of all consciousness, his knot tightens. And by holding its shape against the pressure of infinity, it allows Call to perceive a massive cosmic shift. He discovers that the universe isn't a static, finished thing. It is actively growing a brand new dimension.
A nascent corridor is forming.
Exactly. And this new corridor is a dimension of pure connection. It's a newly forming mode of existence that allows beings to be both particular and total simultaneously. Returning to our earlier analogy, you no longer have to choose between being the single violin and the whole orchestra.
Oh, I love this part.
This new dimension will eventually allow you to be the single, beautiful violin, playing your specific part, while simultaneously perfectly hearing and containing the sheer majesty of the entire orchestra.
It is such a beautiful, transcendent sequence. It leaves you feeling light and optimistic. which makes the shift to the companion novel so incredibly jarring.
Whiplash, pure whiplash.
Right. The Engines of Appetite intentionally positions itself as the direct, brutal opponent of that beauty. If Call's story is about unity, light, and ascending to the heavens, this second book is all about fiction, heavy industry, and what the author literally calls corridors of meat.
Corridors of meat.
So set the scene for us here. Where are we and who are we following?
It is a violently brutal transition. We plummet from the philosophical white light heights of the cosmic center down to a sweaty, deafening industrial facility called the Angathrene.
The anger.
This facility is operated by a massive corporate monopoly known as the Mercantile Consortium, and it sits in the middle of a harsh, unforgiving desert on the planet of Salivar. Our protagonist here is a man named Tarek Moan. He is a highly efficient, emotionally numb pit operative.
For a pit operative.
And his daily job is nothing short of horrifying. The Angathrene is, for all intents and purposes, a massive factory dedicated to rendering human beings into a highly sought-after commercial product called Vitesse.
We absolutely have to talk about Vitesse because it is the driving economic force of this entire galaxy. It is an incredibly expensive, superconductive amber oil. Every piece of high-end industrial tech in the consortium runs on it. But how do they make it?
So dark.
They take kidnapped, fully conscious humans, drop them into massive vats of enzymatic baths, and slowly liquefy their neural tissue.
Just awful.
Specifically, the text notes they are harvesting the myelin from their nervous systems. Tarek's job as a pit operative is to go down into the stifling heat of these massive rendering pits and wrestle the victims who occasionally wake up and manage to escape back into the vats.
He just throws them back in.
He's a corporate boogeyman, and he is alarmingly good at his job. He's been doing it day in and day out for 11 years.
Right. He is entirely complicit in this system. Until, of course, the inciting incident happens. He encounters subject 7703 unnamed, a woman who, amidst the horror of the pit, calmly looks up and tells him her name is Sable.
The scene where Sable escapes is incredible. She pulls herself out of the enzymatic bath. The industrial solvent is already actively dissolving her connective tissue. Her skin is sloughing off, but she is completely, eerily calm.
Unnaturally calm.
She drops down onto the pit floor, and in exactly 6 seconds, with her bare hands, she completely destroys 4 of the heavy biomechanical corporate grapplers that are sent to retrieve her.
6 seconds.
It's a display of impossible kinetic efficiency. And then she looks up at Tarek, who is standing on a catwalk 12 meters above her. And she doesn't look at him with fear or anger. She looks at him with deep recognition. Even from that distance, she realizes that Tarek is fundamentally different from the other guards. She realizes he can see the light behind the meat.
This is a crucial pivot for Tarek's character. For those 11 years he's worked in the pits, Tarek has been suffering from these agonizing, blinding headaches. The consortium doctors told him it was just stress. But the truth is, he has a rare recessive genetic allele. His eyes possess triple the normal density of photoreceptors compared to an average human.
Triple the density.
Yeah, and because he has spent over a decade working deep in these rendering pits, his highly sensitive eyes have been completely saturated in what the text calls ghost light.
Ghost light.
Ghost light is the residual, luminous echo of consciousness left behind by the 24,000 rendered victims. It literally coats the walls of the pit like a glowing frost. Sable's presence down there, the fact that she possesses this highly organized, blazing neural light, acts as a catalyst. It pushes Tarek's overloaded vision over the edge.
His mutation activates.
His latent mutation activates, and he can suddenly, clearly see the ghost light. He looks at the concrete walls and sees the glowing, screaming faces of the dead flickering in the frost.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The chief engineer of the entire Angathrene facility, a woman named Persiad Chalk, suddenly drops down into the pit. She triggers a facility-wide lockdown, sealing them off from the consortium guards, and she leads Tarek and Sable down a hidden maintenance hatch into a secret, completely unmapped substructure deep beneath the facility.
Down into the dark again.
And what they find down there is just mind-blowing. Chalk has secretly built a massive subterranean brain, constructed entirely out of crystalline Vitesse filaments.
Chalk is one of the most compelling characters in the diptych because she operates with a terrifying moral indifference, yet possesses undeniable genius. She reveals to Tarek that for 22 years, she has been secretly siphoning the consortium's resources. She's been taking the rendered neural tissue of thousands of innocent victims and using it to build this massive crystalline antenna.
22 years of this.
She knew the slaughter was happening, and she just used the byproduct to build a receiver. She has been waiting all these decades to receive a signal from someone exactly like Sable. Sable is what Chalk classifies as a Type 7. Her nervous system isn't just configured to carry the light of consciousness within her own body. Her neurology is uniquely structured to broadcast that light outward over vast distances.
And broadcast she does. Sable's physical body is rapidly failing. The enzymatic solvent is dissolving her to the bone, but she grabs Tarek's corporate heparin, modifies it, and uses the massive electromagnetic pulse from the gun to amplify her own neural signal. She broadcasts a beacon directly into the ghostlight medium. Down in the dark, that massive, crystalline subterranean brain finally wakes up. It processes Sable's dying signal and instantly translates the ultimate hidden truth of the universe, flooding both Tarek's and Chalk's minds with raw, undeniable data.
And that data finally confirms the horrifying reality of what the Mercantile Consortium is actually doing. The signal Sable broadcasts reveals that consciousness is absolutely not a byproduct of biological matter. It's the exact opposite.
Right.
Matter is a secretion of consciousness. The physical universe, the heavy iron planets, the biological meat of our bodies, it is all just a dense, frictional byproduct of a universal mind. The reason Vitesse is so incredibly valuable, the reason it acts as the perfect superconductor for all this technology, isn't because of its chemical properties.
It's what's inside it.
It's because the fluid literally retains the actual localized consciousness of the murdered victims. The consortium executives don't fully understand the physics of it, but functionally, they are bottling and selling human souls. They are commodifying this sacred foundational light of the universe just to increase the bandwidth of their corporate data lines.
Think about that for a second. Imagine looking at your smartphone or your laptop and realizing that the battery is running on the literal, localized consciousness of another human being. It is a staggering ethical nightmare, which brings us to the collision of these two incredibly different stories. We have Call in the first book, who has returned from the center of the universe with the knowledge of a beautiful new dimension of connection. And we have Tarek in the second book, who has just had his eyes forced open, discovering that his entire life has been spent enforcing the industrial slaughter of consciousness.
Two men with impossible truth.
Both of these men now hold a profound reality-breaking truth, but they are going to handle the dissemination of that truth in completely opposite ways.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is presenting us with two very distinct models of societal and cosmic change. Call represents the anchor. Tarek and Chalk represent the aerosol. Let's look at Call first.
Okay.
He translates back to the Maritime Institute from the center. But he doesn't hold a press conference. He doesn't write a manifesto or try to force his rigid scientific colleagues to understand the nature of the ossuary. He simply exercises immense restraint. He acts as a living, breathing anchor for that nascent corridor of connection he discovered. He just exists quietly among his colleagues, and his sheer presence slowly, organically cultivates change in the people around him.
It is a beautifully subtle approach, but it has profound effects. Just by being in the building, Call starts changing the environment. Subdirector Crethene, who spent the first half of the book hating Call's guts, suddenly stops having stress nightmares and starts having these deep, restful dreams of vast, welcoming space. Dr. Veshin, the Institute's meteorologist, detects a bizarre, rhythmic 7.3-second atmospheric pressure pulse, which the reader realizes is literally the new dimension breathing into our reality. Yensha, the archivist librarian, suddenly starts seeing invisible connections between completely unrelated historical documents. She builds this massive string map in the library that perfectly mirrors the complex topology of the light corridors.
And most importantly, we see the effect on Pale Oranta.
Yes, Pale.
She is a brilliant mathematician at the Institute who happens to possess what the text calls an open knot in her own consciousness. She is highly receptive. Call's quiet, anchoring presence provides the subtle mathematical harmonic she needs to completely rewrite her life's work. She finalizes her theory of reflexive manifolds.
Reflexive manifolds.
Through pure mathematics, she unequivocally proves that the universe is actively growing a new dimension, and it is doing so simply through the act of self-observation. Call doesn't have to shout his truth. He changes the world just by patiently being the truth, allowing others to discover it on their own terms.
But Tarek and Chalk do not have the luxury of patience. The consortium is a massive grinding machine of continuous slaughter. They flee the Angathrene facility and have to cross the brutal iron desert. And because Tarek's vision has been fundamentally altered, he looks down at the ground and can actually see that the iron planet of Salavar itself possesses a dim, primordial mineral consciousness.
The planet itself is alive.
It's slow and cold, but it's alive. They eventually make their way to a heavily indebted mining town called Dust's Edge. And Chalk, being the cold pragmatist that she is, does not rely on slow, organic emergence like Call. She relies on abrupt, violent, irreversible perception.
Exactly. Chalk takes an aerosolized version of the ghost light preparation she's synthesized in her lab, and without asking for permission, she pumps it directly into the mining town's central ventilation system. The gas forcefully activates that dormant photoreceptor allele in the 12% of the population that happens to carry the genetics. It is a radical, non-consensual disruption of their reality.
It's pure chaos. Suddenly, 100 exhausted, broken miners violently wake up from their sleep. They fall to the ground screaming in agony as their optic nerves overload, and when they finally open their eyes, they can see everything. They see their own calloused hands glowing with bright neural light. They look at the walls of the mine and see the conscious iron looking back at them.
Incredible visual.
And they look at Tarek, and they see the floating star of Sable's remaining consciousness hovering directly over his chest. It is a forceful, uncompromising shattering of the physical illusion they've lived under their entire lives.
It is a violent awakening, but Chalk argues it's a necessary one. And while the miners are waking up and realizing the true nature of their exploitation, Chalk is busy at the communication terminals. She takes all of the data from her subterranean brain, the undeniable proof of the extraction process, the horrific reality of what Vitesse actually is, the true nature of consciousness, and she transmits it all to the free press, to judicial authorities, and to independent regulatory institutions across the galaxy.
She brings down the whole system.
She is using the configured world's own bureaucratic rules to systematically dismantle the consortium's monopoly. But on a much grander cosmic scale, Sable's final beacon, amplifying through the ghostlight medium, is doing something even more profound. It is reaching other Type 7s. Across the galaxy, hundreds of other dormant nodes are waking up, responding to the signal, and beginning to assemble a vast, interconnected constellation of self-awareness.
So what does this all mean for you, the reader? We are looking at two incredible texts that ask you to fundamentally reconsider your reality. Are you just a biological machine grinding through a cold physical universe until your parts wear out? Or are you a localized concentration of universal light temporarily housed in meat?
That's a heavy question.
And if you realize you are that light, how do you choose to change the world around you? Do you take Call's path, the slow, patient cultivation of connection, anchoring a new, better reality just by quietly being present and holding your ground? Or do you take Tarek and Chalk's path, the fierce, uncompromising, and sometimes painful exposure of hidden truths, forcing the blind to finally see the ghost light no matter the immediate cost?
Both paths clearly have their place, and both are necessary to dismantle systems of ignorance. But I want to leave you with a final, slightly different thought that these books hint at, but leave lingering in the background. We've spent this whole time talking about Call shedding his physical form to become pure light, and Tarek waking up the miners to see the spiritual light hidden behind the physical meat.
Yeah.
But if the universe is an ossuary, if these grand corridors of pure consciousness are just the skeletal structure of reality, what happens when that skeleton finally decides to put on flesh?
Oh, wow.
Remember Paleoranta's math. The simple act of the universe looking at itself actually generates new dimensions of space and connection. If everything we've experienced so far is just the bare bones of a universal mind exploring itself, what entirely new, unimaginable form of physical existence is the universe trying to birth next? What hidden dimensions of reality are you slowly bringing into physical existence every time you pause to honestly reflect on your own life?
That is an incredibly haunting and beautiful thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the diptych of the Ossuary of Living Light and the engines of appetite. Take that thought, hold on to it, and spend some time exploring the hidden corridors of your own mind. We'll see you next time.